Chief of General Staff, to fly out and do it. It's a soldier apologising for a soldier. And I mean, even Winston Churchill, who was no great friend of India's, said that it was a disgraceful event, as did the then Prime Minister Asquith, great-grandfather of the current High Commissioner, coincidentally. But why don't you just switch and ask for the... that'd be much more fun. I'm looking for a headline. Shashi Tharoor calls on British Army Chief to fly to India.
No, in fact, I want much more the British Army Chief to apologise, because Amritsar encapsulated everything that was wrong about the British Empire in India. It was not just the fact that Dyer ordered the soldiers to fire. You can say the man was an unbridled psychopath or a sociopath at any rate, and therefore it was his personal sin. No, not so. First of all, the British Empire created the structure of injustice that made this possible. Second, when Dyer did his massacre, the British tried to whitewash it through a commission of inquiry that actually minimized the number of casualties and largely exonerated his action. Third, the British in India as a whole rose up in his defense and actually collected a subscription, which in today's money is about £250,000 to reward him for what he had done. Rudyard Kipling, who had been, of course, the Nobel laureate, the poet laureate, everything else, by now living in England, actually hailed him as the saviour of India, a title then bestowed on him by the British press. This was a collective sin, John. It was a sin of the entire British race. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, Dyer should have impaled himself upon the bejewelled sword he was also presented, along with £250,000. But since he didn't, and since our poor nationalists killed not Dyer but Dwyer in London when they went to kill him, but poor Dyer, I shouldn't say poor Dyer, nasty Dyer died a rather unpleasant death with hepatitis and God knows what else. 10 years, about 10 years after Jallianwala. The fact still is that, to my mind, what Jallianwala symbolizes is what we are seeking an apology for. The entire edifice of colonialism, injustice, expropriation, racism. Dyer then ordered Indians to crawl on their bellies on the narrow street leading up to Jallianwala Bagh. And if anybody even raised his head while crawling, he was hit on the head with a lathi. That was for an entire week after Jallianwala Bagh. The bodies lying in Jallianwala Bagh were left to rot. They were not allowed to be buried or cremated. This is the kind of atrocity that Jallianwala Bagh represents that we cannot afford to forget. I've gone there many times and paid my own respects, but I think for a British Prime Minister to come, see this as the symbol of all the atrocities and say for all the wrongs that were done, we are sorry, would be terrific. If you look at what Willy Brandt did, Willy Brandt in Germany, a socialist, a social democrat, somebody who was completely innocent of the crimes of the Nazis. In fact, he and people like him were persecuted by the Nazis. He goes to Warsaw and falls wordlessly on his knees in the Warsaw ghetto. It was a tremendous act of atonement by a German leader. And Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, earlier this year, issued a powerful apology in the Canadian Parliament to the people of India for the Komagata Maru incident. And Trudeau's a liberal. He had nothing to do with that decision.
Are you relating the horrors of Nazi Germany with the horrors of British rule in India?
I'm close. They come close. I mean, if you look at it purely as a calculation in terms of the number of deaths, British rule in India actually exceeds the Holocaust, 13 million people killed, Stalin's Great Famine in Ukraine, 20 million people killed, Mao's Great Leap Forward in Cultural Revolution, 25 million killed. British famines alone killed 35 million people in India. So if you look at numbers, it's right up there with the... Will Durant, the American historian, described British colonialism in India as the greatest crime in all human history. I rest my case.